Good morning, everyone, and there is a lot to talk about today, and it gets more and more serious as we go. Although I'm going to start with the most serious thing right off the bat. And if you know and you follow, my name is Musa. I'm an attorney. I'm licensed in 3 different jurisdictions, and I've been practicing for 25 years. So let's get back to it. The first thing we need to discuss is the Harvard study. 377,000 Palestinians missing. Poof. Gone. That's the study that an Israeli analyst has found on behalf of the Israeli government. And he sent it to Harvard University, and that study has since been released. At this point, there is no doubt in anybody's mind that they've probably killed nearly 500,000 Palestinian people, and it's still going. Every day, the Israeli forces commit another massacre, an aid massacre, where they will line people up, tell them that there's aid coming, give them a certain period of time, and then start firing immediately at unarmed civilians. And this has recently been reported by a IDF soldier who had returned and said he felt like he was the Nazi and the Palestinians were the Jews. He said it, I didn't. So now, with 377,000 missing on top of the ones that are confirmed dead, that we have around 50,000 or so, we have people all over the world just sick of it. Nobody in their right mind thinks that this is a good idea unless they are a very feral Zionist, or if they are invested in the war machine, right? Everybody else sees this as gruesome and disgusting and the worst of humanity. And so somebody by the name of Bob Vylan, I like to say it's spelled Vylan. He's a musician. I don't know much of his music, but he was chanting something called, death, death, and then to the Israeli security forces or the Israeli army, right? And he had gotten a whole lot of feedback, terrible feedback, good feedback, but feedback. So let's get straight here. I don't, I have zero interest in any violence. I don't wish anyone death. I'm reporting on an issue that has had some serious consequences as a result of what he said. So much so that the Secretary of State has denied his visa for his upcoming show, and United Talent Agency has dropped him. And he was chanting death to a army, and that army is an armed force that is out there right now. So let's give it some context. Why in the world would someone scream that, right? Death to whomever, death to anybody. Well, there's a lot going on, and it appears that it has a lot to do with the triggering. You'll see a lot of Israeli soldiers just murdering people and putting it out there like it's a good time, right? So you kind of set the rules. And if you set the rules that way, then, that's the way, those are the rules. You've already set the boundaries, right? You can make fun of dead little kids. And so Mr. Bob Vylan, and by the way, it's spelled Vylan. I want to say Bob Villain. I like that. I think it sounds good. Bob Villain. So we're going to go with that. So Bob Villain comes out and says, death to them. Now, why them? Why that organization specifically? And the question has to look back at the history of those organizations. Many of you in the know already know this. Many of you not in the know don't. The Haganah and the Irgun were 2 terrorist organizations. One was a defensive and one was an offensive terrorist organization. They committed terror acts throughout the Middle East and Europe, and ultimately in the King David Hotel, to the point where Queen Elizabeth called them savages. She would have nothing to do with it and never did visit Israel. Ultimately, these two terror organizations formed an army called the IDF after the 1948 slaughters and massacres of the Palestinian people. So I mean, I see what he's saying. He's saying death to them is no different than saying death to the H group or Hezbollah or whatever, because they're all terror entities, right? And why should one terror entity be more favorable than the other terror entity? When in reality, the difference is that they're the United States' terror entity, right? And so they can do that kind of thing. And there's a great deal of influence in this country, if you haven't noticed. All President Trump has to say is stop the case against Netanyahu, and the Israeli courts have halted the case against Netanyahu. And you see a lot of this happening, this intermixing between these two countries that have this unholy relationship. So this musician, Bob Vylan, comes out after they'd suppressed like 3 or 4 other musicians for saying things about Palestine, and he just goes all out. He must know that he's going to get dropped. He must know all of these things and just not care. His point is that musicians, they all clam up and they need to use their platform to speak up. That's his position. That's great. Personally, I think that anything that happens to help speak up for the Palestinian people is important. Anything that shows that Palestinian people are human is important. And that if you feel that anything that shows that the Palestinian people is human means that it's negative to somebody else, then that's just a you problem. Now, do I support him chanting death to anybody? Of course not, right? We are at a point where everything is solved by lobbing a missile at somebody, which is nonsense. So when the perpetrator sets the rules, and the rules are to threaten everyone, to mock sick children, to mock children that you murdered, to call everything and anybody that says anything negative about you names and slander them, then I don't know what to tell you. But you've set the standard. And maybe if you tone down the rhetoric, everyone will tone down the rhetoric. And now let's move on to Kirsten Sinema and the Democratic establishment, who just came down basically and slandered Zohran Mamdani. You don't understand that if you're calling someone a jihadist or a terrorist, you are putting them in danger. That is absolutely slanderous speak. And I hope that he has the resources to sue every single one of them. And it's no difference than if you were, pardon me, it's no different than if you were to say that about any other race. But I can't, or any other religion. I can't say that here, right? I can't. I'm a Christian. I can't say anything about any of that. I can't say anything about Judaism. But I can go ahead and call someone who's Muslim a global jihadist. Get the fuck out of here. That's racist. You can't do that. That's what they did in World War II. That's how they're able to dehumanize people. That's how they're able to exterminate people. And let me tell you this. If anything happens to him before the election, you know exactly who did it and where it came from. And we'll discuss the threats that U.S. politicians receive on the next episode. So please, thank you for watching. Thank you for joining. Follow, like, and share. That's very important. And you can find me on YouTube at legally.blinding.